We'll be going over several things in this video: refinishing the wood on 2 of these chairs, refinishing the top near entirely on this Drexel hexagonal side table, repairing vinyl using vinyl filler on 1 of 4 of those tables, and then also this quick flip console table. First, I'll start by using some wood filler to fill in these screw holes that normally would have caps. Not all of the caps are missing. I'm going to sand those down. First, I'm going to sand the Drexel. Starting at a 220 grit, I see how much damage there is, and I'm going to need to go up to 80. The reason that kind of grit is hard on this type of furniture is because it's a veneer almost guaranteed. At the edges is where I'm going to run into a bigger problem. But in order to get this out, I really just need to use 80 grit. The way that I get around the issue of it being too high of a grit for me to feel comfortable going to the edges with is I decide to follow the pattern of the manufacturer's original design with that hexagon, tape it off, and I'm only using the 80 grit within that area. This should save me from blowing through the veneer and still let me get those deep scratches out of the center, which is where they are. It doesn't take me very long to get around to all of the edges. You're watching this at double speed, but during this time I am hitting the painter's tape repeatedly. If I could go back and do it again, I would have kept myself a certain distance from the painter's tape. Lesson learned. And I actually didn't learn it then. I only just thought of how I could have avoided the next challenge, and that would be to keep a little distance from that tape. The overall look of it is good, and once it's good enough, I start taking off the tape, but it's hard. Because I'd sanded into it, in part is why the tape is hard to get off, especially around the edges there. So I wet it and use a putty knife. I might do it again. It didn't take that long to clean up, and it looks good. Here, back to the chair. The wood fillers had time to dry while I was dealing with the top of that Drexel hexagon table. I'm going to use the same grit here. We're at 80 at this point, so that helped me get through this real quick. I wasn't as afraid of damaging the veneer there. Going up to 100 grit. You can see at the 100 grit the sides of the chairs. I sanded down where I wanted to restain. On the Drexel as well, I did the same thing, and I think it's smooth enough for me to get ready for some stain by adding a pre-stain wood conditioner, especially on the Drexel, which is a valuable piece. Oh, and it already looks so pretty once the conditioner's on it, doesn't it? I like looking at it and spinning it around on this table. And I like looking at the Drexel as well. I think it's going to turn out great. Enthusiastic. So moving forward, I'm going to use Varathane wood stain in Golden Pecan. I think it's going to match the Drexel piece near exactly, and it'll get this chair and its friend closer to what I need, but I'll probably need to move to a darker stain. That's what I'm guessing at this point. Anyway, to the stains. I had a family emergency come up, so I was pulled away from this, but that's okay. I am ready to move forward when you are. They already look so good just with the conditioner alone. And here is a piece that was pretty inexpensive. It acts as a placeholder for this space. I was going to do a quick flip of it. It only cost me $10. I took off the stuff and sprayed some vinegar on the stickers so I can scrape them off. The cleaning process went fine with the vinegar. Gonna wipe down the centers. I was able to add the shelving back. I took off the doors, or the doors were already taken off, so I set them aside. I'm gonna have to determine whether or not I can put them back on, or if they're just gonna be a total loss and I'll have to cover up the fact that they ever existed. We're gonna find that out. If I had a sponsor, this is where I would enter something about a sponsor, but I don't. So if anybody wants to sponsor me, I'll test out your product or something. Anyway, this console table quick flip is not going to be as quick as I want, and I already know that when I'm doing it. I use the 220 grit sandpaper to sand the top by hand, and after I wipe the dust back with that water bottle and rag, I'm going to want to use a chalk paint on the top. That's the plan. I'm going to camo the body. And I find this chalk paint that it's over a year old now, and it's a color that I don't quite love, so I want it a little darker. I'll try mixing it with this darker color. After I do that, the brush I'm going to use is the one that I can find. Since I just moved in, I'm having trouble finding everything, but it's a low quality brush. It'll be fine because it's chalk paint. Also lost my paint key, so I'm using that screwdriver, and those are gloves because I don't want to get paint all over my hands. Man, if someone wanted to send me a nicer brush to test out, I mean, that would be something, huh? Wouldn't it? Okay. This is after one coat, a very quick coat with a very low quality brush. And for chalk paint, this is actually going to be all right. It's part of what's cool about chalk paint, but the finish is not going to look like a factory finish. It's clearly going to be hand painted, and there are going to be a lot of lines in it. I have to accept that fact because I don't want to accept this piece of furniture in the house anymore. It's not going to make me any money to sell, I don't think, but I just, I'm practicing here. I'm learning here. You're learning with me. This is what it looks like after one very thin coat, which we want to start with a thin coat in order to help with adherence. And then we want to wait for a long time before we go in with our second coat, even though we're impatient. That's why we work on 4 things at once. I'm talking to myself here more than I am to anybody else, of course, because I'm the one working on 4 pieces of furniture at once over the course of 3 days. This is day 2. And I have a pretty good feeling I'm going to have to take all that hardware out. My feelings are valid. The first coat dries fine. I'm going to switch to a beige. This is the next day because it's a little too gray for me. And this hardware is going to have to come out because the doors are not going back. I'm going to hide the fact that they ever existed. And after one coat of that beige, I feel pretty good that I'm only going to need maybe 1 additional coat tomorrow. We're waiting. We're being patient, remember? And here are pieces of hardware taken off. I'm going to fill those areas with wood filler to disguise as though the doors never existed in the first place. But then I decided to make a chimpanzee in a hot air balloon because I asked for an assignment. I'm learning editing. Part of what I'm learning is that people are squirrel brained, so I gotta switch from topic to topic to get views. It's weird. That's fine. I like to switch from topic to topic anyway. This topic is vinyl. This is the worst looking out of 4 chairs. It cost me a single dollar, less than $1. So I'm going to try the vinyl filler product that I've tried previously, but in a way the manufacturer recommends more. This is what I'm going to need for the next 10 minutes. I'll use the vinyl with gloves on, and then I'll use the wood sticks to spread it on in something like a wood filler layer. And those were demon llamas in the background. Okay, they weren't demons, but they were llamas. And they remind me of the Emperor's New Groove. This is the chair again. It's clean. It's clearly got some issues. It is damaged. I understand why it was less than $1. I'm going to cover it. And after I cover it, closer to the way the manufacturer suggested, I need to allow it time to dry. But I'll note that it feels good to put this on. It's like wood filler, only slipperier, not as gritty. And it dries quickly. So it's potentially, if I like doing vinyl filler, I could start working on repairing vinyl. Got to figure out whether or not that's going to be feasible. Meanwhile, you have this review of the product that I've left unnamed and unlinked because they didn't give me the product. They're probably cool though. Here's a picture of a bird with a flag in the background that I made. Okay, then we go to the store. I find this wicker chair. It's very dirty, but I think maybe if I resell it, after cleaning it up, I could sell it for, never mind. Then I looked at this piece, which is a high quality piece of furniture for its time, and I love the way it looks. Those two chairs, also pretty good shape. They've been refinished not recently. They'd need some work, and maybe I could make a profit, but maybe I don't want to bother. Oh, these two side tables, they are of very high quality and expensive. These side tables also come from a good manufacturer. I would only have to cut off the, I don't know if I wanna. I did end up purchasing this piece. That's a story for another day, as well as the side tables. This door is jacked up. That's my joke. It was just to hold it. My three main goals of the day, which feel like several days because it happens they are, is to get that piece posted. That's the quick flip, to stain these chairs, and to stain this one of 4 dining chairs as well. On the console table, the pieces where there was wood filler have been sanded down, and those are gonna need some markers to disguise them. The wood filler on the top, I put a little where the paint had gone on. It showed that it was really obvious. And here is a little bird cage that I got. My friend Nancy said, who cares about it? And I said, I can paint it beige, which it already was. Anyway, I think it'll be cute once it's done, and it's an easy enough project to add into this one. The way I start is I remove the bird tray from the top of the table, make sure the table is cleared off, and I'm gonna spray it down to help slow the dry time. That'll help make it a little more even. This brush that I'm using now is a bit higher quality. So here we go. It has a pool noodle I've tied around it to help accommodate my swollen joints. I can hardly close my hand very comfortably, and so the pool noodle will help, except I keep finding that I don't use it. It's hard to get used to that. I stop for a second because there's a schmutz in the paint, and we cannot have schmutz. I have deschmutzed. I move along and may encounter a few other specks of here and there before my pool noodle starts coming off. I hadn't tied it on well enough, and that's okay. I wasn't using it appropriately anyway. Using the spray bottle helps keep the paint able to be worked over the surface, but I want to make sure I got everything, so I changed the lighting, and want to see if there's something caught in the, yep, there it is, got it, mine. One final swoop, and I am done with this as far as paint goes. Moving on to the bird cage is now the plan. The bird cage, I used the brush I was using just now. A different spray paint would probably be the easiest method, but this is what I'm just trying to fit into this project. And it works pretty well, except for how to get the bottom. I get confused for a second, then I decide to wet the paint and pour the paint into the cage and swoosh it around with my hand. It's not a bad method. It works. And I've got a cute little bird cage now. Having just taken a load off for a second, I decided to go to the stain. Here we are. The stain on top of the Drexel is really what's going to matter to me the most. I had the option to just stop working on this after only putting in a couple hours, maybe a few hours, but the top scratches just bugged me, and so I wanted this to be a piece that was really well done, not just well done. It will be worth $600, and truth be told, at the end of it, how long I'm spending doing it may not make it that profitable for me, but I don't care. I don't want to do furniture for profit. I want to do it for furniture's sake. So if you'd like to hit like or subscribe or send me a cup of coffee or something, I don't know, that might be able to help make it profitable. Unless you already know me, then don't give me anything other than, the time of day. And this, I got obsessed with this stain, and it takes a while to put on. And I keep having to apply it as it dries. It's important not to let it dry too much before you wipe it back. Sit down so I can be seated while I rub the excess stain off the top of this Drexel hexagonal side table. It's important that you do this part, not because the manufacturer says so, though they do, but for the reasons they say so. I take it into the sun and see that it's perfect. Life is perfect, and I'm ready to sit down again to move on to the chairs. Moving on to the chairs, the arms are the most important part to me because that's the part that's going to be most seen, most used. It's where the most damage was. I'm doing the arms, waiting for a couple minutes before I wipe off the excess like the manufacturer says to do. It does matter that we follow those directions. I sit down again. I do another coat of stain on the sides and wipe that down when it's time to. If I don't wipe it down, mineral spirits would be a way to get it up, or paint thinner. But I'm going to go ahead and turn this around and work on the most visible places most carefully. I'm going to work on all the places where there was damage, but I'm going especially slow during these. Also, I don't want to stain the fabric. That's a good reason. The first chair, having had all of the excess wiped off, can come off of the table, and the other one can go on, so I have easier access to wiping and staining certain places. Taking it into the sun, I know it'll need another coat, but I feel good about it. And there's nothing that could possibly go wrong in this moment. So I pour some paint thinner onto my brush, which I wrap in tin foil. I set it aside. I'm going to do a second coat in about an hour. And then I see the problem. Houston, we have a problem. Do you see it? I do. That paint thinner is leaking, and it's going to be a problem. I set aside the stain. I should have used a mallet rather than a hammer, but I've got paint thinner leaking all over now, and it is time to worry about safety. I take it outside to confirm it is leaking. Based on the leakiness of it, it is clearly leaking. I get water for the rags. I soak the rags in water, put them in a metal bin, which I cover, and then I have a glass thing I'm going to put the paint thinner in that was used for some other substance that's also poisonous. Paint thinner is leaking, and so I'm going to put on my respirator and put on pants, ta-da, and for the sake of humor, I'm going to go this far and take this operation jokingly. The best way to take the operation, really, in this case. I put on gloves that will protect me. I get the glass bottle into the metal container, and I pour paint thinner in slowly, carefully, spilling no drops, which is true except for I do spill a few drops. I put the cap back on it, and using this magic solution, it's just water, I spray that down to make sure that it's fine. I pour a little into my paint thinner can, and then I pour that onto a non-flammable surface called concrete. The rags that are wet go back in, and it's time for me to sit and watch paint thinner dry, which is more exciting than watching paint dry. If you're not in an area prone to fires, this might not freak you out as much as it freaked me out, or maybe you're just cooler than me. But I feel pretty cool and good about the day. But the day's not over. I have this gold piece, gold to finish this piece. I have a 220 grit by hand. I have markers, some water, and a rag. I do a pretty quick once, twice, thrice over with getting the little nibs down, and spray some water onto microfiber cloth to pull back the dust. I get out the markers and start camouflaging where I'd put wood filler and where there are just little scratches and dings all over the piece. As I said, I don't think this will be very profitable. It's because it's not a very high quality piece. It's fine and it'll be adorable, but that's what it is. This is Odie's oil, and It is going to be applied with a microfiber cloth, at least it is for a moment, before I realize that the cloth is not brand new and it has stuff on it. I'm going to need something else. T-shirt material would work, but the only t-shirt material I have is not within eyesight. A surgical mask is, though, so I use that to apply the odies. It works well enough, and I think, oh, I'll use these forever until I switch over to using my hands, which actually works out a lot better. Using my gloved hands is kind of fun and feels like giving a Swedish massage to a table, almost. I want a Swedish massage right about now. But instead, I apply the Odie's oil, and then it's going to be time for me to wait about an hour before I buff it out. So that's what I'm about to do, is figure out what to do for the next hour. I return the lighting back to something like normal, and I move on to the other project that I was planning on working on. This vinyl chair is one of 4 that are very inexpensive. I have sanded one side, not the other, just to see what that's going to look like later. The sanded side feels really good. The other side doesn't feel terrible, but I decide that I'm going to apply a restor-a-finish to try to have the vinyl I'm using match the color of what I'm repairing. It's very easy to use this restor-a-finish. Once I was able to get it open, I went ahead and applied it pretty quickly in a thin but even layered-ish. And after I got it on there and got it on the back, I had the window open this whole time, just so you know that door is entirely open. I take it out back, close it up, and we'll wait for it to dry, see what it looks like, see if I got closer to matching the 2 colors of vinyl. I don't know if I care, but it's something to learn about. Back to the thing I do care about for the day is buffing out this Odie's oil. I go with a puppy pad. I thought that it might be the easiest way that I had available to make sure that I got the Odie's oil off, and it was kind of fun. Looking at the table, not the table, that's a chair, it's not staining the right color. Looking at the Drexel, it's staining a beautiful color. And looking at the chairs, they are very close to correct, but not perfect yet. And maybe they don't need to be perfect, but I would like them to be closer to correct. The Drexel, I believe, is ready to get some finishing work done. Another sand and a top coat. Back to this, I have to wait. The bird cage is darling. I have to wait an hour before I can put anything on this table for staging, but I am committed to staging this table and getting it posted by the end of the day. That's my day's goal. I have goals. During that hour, I go ahead and get out the decor I think I'm going to use on it. I use an opportunity to take a bath, eat something. I forgot to do that today. And then I stage it, and I think it looks really nice. I love the way the piece looks. I edited it into a few different settings, and it's getting a lot of views so far at the time of this recording.